CBS 6 News starts now.
Gillibrand calls it quits.
But after more than 8 incredible months, I'm ending my presidential campaign.
With a debate deadline looming, why the New York senator says dropping out is the best move to get a Democrat in.
Dirt bike dangers.
And as soon as I went like this, all I heard was a loud boom.
As a city tries to crack down, a dirt bike slams into a car. We speak to a man who says he saw it all.
Dorian bears down, the latest on this serious and already deadly storm, as the Sunshine State prepares for landfall.
And as Labor Day weekend gets closer, the weather's coming into a little clearer view, and why I'm seeing the chances for rain increasing.
We wanted to win this race, but it's important to know when it's not your time.
The end of the campaign trail for Senator Kirsten Gillibrand as she ends her bid for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination.
Gillibrand was never able to make a move in the polls. The final straw was her inability to qualify for next month's debate. In a tweet today, the U.S. Senator from New York said she was proud of her run, but that it was important to know how you can best serve. She thanked her supporters, quote, "from the bottom of my heart," and added, "Now let's go beat Donald Trump and win back the Senate."
Gillibrand formally announced her candidacy in May after a high-profile launch in January, right here on CBS 6 on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
I'm filing an exploratory committee for President of the United States tonight.
Among those reacting, President Trump, who tweeted, "I'm glad they, the Democrats, never found out that she was the one I was really afraid of." We're also getting local reaction tonight. Many of her family and campaign staffers were based in Troy during her campaign.
Gillibrand herself lives in Brunswick with her family. CBS 6's Steve Majiri joins us from downtown Troy.
Steve, what are you hearing from locals about this?
Many business owners here tell us that they were rooting for Kirsten Gillibrand, and they tell us that many of her campaign staffers spent time at their shops during the campaign. Business owners tell us they often saw campaign staffers frequenting shops as they worked on Kirsten Gillibrand's presidential campaign. They tell us they appreciated how Gillibrand put Troy on a national stage by mentioning it during the debates. The business owners also tell us the senator had gone to the shops in downtown Troy before, and they say even though the campaign was brief, it helped put Troy on the map.
She's a hometown girl, and I feel that everyone on these streets was supporting her and really excited about just seeing her talk about Troy in front of a national stage. I mean, she mentioned Troy, New York in a national debate setting.
And Senator Gillibrand's campaign headquarters is right down the street here in downtown Troy. But again, that campaign is coming to an end tonight. In Troy, Steve Majiri, CBS 6 News.
Gillibrand ran a presidential campaign that was centered on advocacy for women, but it was unable to turn that into either financial or voter support.
And she's now just the latest Democrat to end their campaigns in the past month after failing to make any headway. The senator's departure leaves 20 Democrats vying to challenge Republican President Donald Trump in the November 2020 election. These are the surviving candidates tonight. Gillibrand told the New York Times she would like to see a woman win the nomination.
The other big news tonight, Hurricane Dorian, expected to gain strength as it threatens to slam Florida's Atlantic coast over the Labor Day weekend. And officials are warning people to take this seriously, that it could become a Category 3 hurricane when it hits mainland. The governor of Florida has now declared a state of emergency, telling residents to stock up on a week's worth of supplies. Today, Dorian lashed the Virgin Islands with high winds and rains, but for the most part, largely spared Puerto Rico. Forecasters say Dorian is on track to hit the mainland late Sunday with winds of over 100 miles an hour.
Back in our area tonight, police say a man hit a car with his illegal dirt bike while trying to turn onto McCarty Avenue in Albany yesterday. The rider, 23-year-old Andre Sutton, in the hospital now recovering from lacerations and road rash. This comes just one day after another man was arrested for driving a dirt bike onto a sidewalk, nearly hitting 2 mothers with small children on Monday. A witness to the most recent incident says it was terrifying.
You just see his face hit the car. He falls back because the car was right here. He falls back that way. Like, he didn't flip over or anything. You would think you would have flipped over the car, but he just bounced back.
Sutton was given several tickets, including operating an unregistered vehicle and not wearing a helmet.
A new civil suit has been filed in the case of the Schoharie limousine crash last October that killed 20 people. This one is going after Mavis Discount Tire, which gave the limousine the all clear to be on the road. The suit was filed on behalf of newlywed Shane and Eric McGowan, two of the people who died in the crash. The suit accuses the Mavis store in Saratoga Springs of performing inspections that they were allegedly not authorized to do. The complaint claims a DOT inspection found the 2001 Ford Excursion with many violations, and that Mavis attempted to fix defects, including in the brake system. The suit also names Shahed and Nauman Hussein, who ran Prestige Limo, the company that put the vehicle on the road, for their, quote, willful misconduct throughout the registration and inspection process.
We can't fix this. My clients want their loved ones back. Hopefully through the criminal process and then through the civil process, everyone who played a role in this accident will be held accountable.
Davenport there says that there's a combination of fault and that he plans to take action against the state as well. He says his clients just want to see change.
Tonight, CBS 6 with an inside tour of the construction now underway at Saratoga Springs City Hall. This after the historic building was badly damaged in a storm last year. The city's commissioner of public works says the $10 million project was sparked by a lightning bolt that burned a hole in the roof drain, causing extensive water damage. City Hall was originally built back in 1871. The commissioner says what took up most of their time this past year was actually asbestos removal. He says when everything's finished, the seat of the Spa City's government will survive for generations to come.
It's an old building, and, you know, it's always cheaper to build new than to renovate, but I mean, it's Saratoga Springs. It's, you know, it's part of what people expect, and we're going to give them what they expect.
And Commissioner Scirocco says they're aiming to reopen the basement and first floor by the end of the year and the rest of the building by next spring.
Tonight, we're learning the name of the victim in a shooting over the weekend in Pittsfield. 32-year-old Stephanie Olivieri of Yonkers succumbed to her injuries Sunday morning after being hit by a single bullet. She was sitting in a vehicle near the intersection of Columbus Avenue and South John Street when she was hit. At this time, the case is being investigated as a homicide. A man in Fulton County arrested for making an alleged terroristic threat. 56-year-old David Ferlazzo of Broad Albin was picked up last night. He allegedly called the Fulton County Communications Center, threatening to kill a police deputy and several others. He was taken into custody and charged with a felony. And an Albany man out on parole arrested, found armed with a loaded handgun. 40-year-old Tommy Houston led police on a pursuit in the area of First and Lexington late last night, they say. Police say he got out of the vehicle and tried to run, but that he was stopped. They also say they saw him trying to get rid of a loaded handgun and that they recovered the weapon.
Nearly 24 local sex abuse cases have been filed against the Albany Roman Catholic Diocese, this in the wake of the Child Victims Act passage. And tonight, many more are expected. 22 in Albany, 6 in Onondaga County, and 14 in St. Lawrence. Those are the cases already filed by the law firm of Lefebvre, Wine, and Frament, which had previously accused 83 people of sex abuse in the Albany Diocese alone.
Now that these courageous survivors have come forward to tell their stories to us, we have had a flood of other survivors come to us.
Another firm has filed a case of sex abuse against former Schenectady priest Francis Melfi. It claims 2 bishops knew of the abuse involving 4 siblings beginning 50 years ago and did nothing. The diocese says Melfi left the ministry in 1979 and was removed from the clergy at his request in 2012, but would not comment further.
An Albany man has now been arrested for sexually assaulting and beating a woman back in July. 31-year-old Christopher Johnson was arrested yesterday. Police say on the night of July 16th, Johnson was inside an apartment on Central Avenue when he sexually assaulted a woman. They say he stopped her from leaving the apartment and hit her with his fists and feet before sexually assaulting her. She was treated and released from a local hospital. Johnson is facing rape, unlawful imprisonment, and strangulation charges and has been remanded to the Albany County Jail.
Well, tonight, a nightmare for anyone with a family member in a nursing home. A Queensbury man accused of sexually abusing an elderly woman. 84-year-old Edward Snowball lived in the Glens Falls Center Physical Therapy Clinic. Police say Monday he entered the room of an 83-year-old woman and sexually abused her in her bed. Officials say an employee intervened after hearing shouting and seeing Snowball abusing the woman.
Well, everybody's got the opportunity to, pick their spots, pick their locations. In this case, he was very careful to make sure he was watching for staff presence, and chose opportunities when there was minimal supervision.
A no-contact order of protection against Edward Snowball is now in place. He's scheduled to appear in Queensbury Town Court September 9th.
Governor Cuomo has now signed legislation protecting victims of domestic violence. The bill applies to those who are leaving their abusers and have received an order of protection. Victims can now end long-term bundled contracts for services like telephone or cable or satellite at a location that they've fled without the costly fees that are often built into the contract. The governor says that survivors of domestic violence should not have to deal with the stress of contract termination penalties while fleeing an abuser. Cuomo called a clean break critical to moving on to the next chapter of their lives.
A major e-cig company now responding to reports of health issues surrounding the products.
The issues he is now calling worrisome.
Plus, a teen tackling climate change, gaining worldwide recognition, the empowering words she has to all her followers.
And there's not too much rain left out there right now. Livingston Doppler 6 showing it across western New England. Couple of sprinkles, light showers up towards Glens Falls and Lake George. I'm looking at when the last of this will kick on out, but also looking at why we could see a bit more developing through at least a part of the Labor Day holiday weekend. Back with my thinking on that and the latest on Hurricane Dorian next.